Sveiki visi dar kartą, labas rytas susirinkusiems į BlueBridge ir partnerio Delinea organizuojamą webinarą privilegijuotų paskirų valdymas. Aš esu Karolis Mikalauskas, infrastruktūros sprendimų vadybininkas, atstovauju įmonę BlueBridge. Šiandieną turime progą susipažinti su jau daugiau nei 3 metus BlueBridge partnerystę puoselėjančių partnerių Delinea. Delinea vysto vieną iš pirmaujančių privilegijuotų paskirų valdymo sprendimų rinkoje ir turi per 10 000 klientų visame pasaulyje. Delinea teigia, kad nuolatinė skaitmenizacija ir organizacijų transformacija į cloud debesyje kelia vis didesnius iššūkius ir reikalavimus privilegijuotų prieigų valdymui ir saugumui. Delinea sako, kad privilegijuotų prieigų valdymas yra sudėtingas, tačiau sprendimas gali būti paprastas, intuityvus ir patogus naudoti. O BlueBridge gali užtikrinti, kad Delinea sprendimas būtų greitai implementuojamas, patogus naudoti ir jūsų veikla būtų dar saugesnė. Tad kviečiu visus, kurie nori pasikalbėti apie privilegijuotų prieigų valdymą, kreiptis į BlueBridge. Na ir šiandienos pranešėjas Delinea atstovė Kamelija Nikolescu jums papasakos apie privilegijuotų paskirų valdymo svarbą, iššūkius, naudas ir perspektyvas. Webinaro svečius kviečiu jaustis laisvai, būkite aktyvūs, užduokite klausimus, o jos galite pateikti rašydami į chat laukelį, kurį matote dešinėje pusėje apačioje, ir jūsų klausimus atsakysime webinaro pabaigoje. Klausimus galite užduoti tiek lietuvių, tiek anglų kalbomis. So, Camelia, hello.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you well.
Perfect. First of all, thank you very much for having me here. A pleasure to be this morning with you.
Okay. So, Camelia, that was my brief introduction, so feel free to start the presentation when you're ready.
Okay.
The stage is yours.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So,
at the beginning, Camelia, you need to confirm your video.
Let me... It's okay?
Yeah, we can see you now.
Perfect. Perfect. So thank you very much for having me here today. A pleasure to be here. My name is Camelia Nicolescu. I'm a territory manager at Delinea. I joined the company back in 2019, and ever since then, I'm in charge and taking care of the territory. What would be the agenda for today? Understanding the business risks of cyber attack. What is the cybersecurity landscape? What are the challenges when we manage privilege accounts? What would be the architecture of a modern PAM solution? And of course, what you can expect from us from the Delinea. I will go directly and jump into the presentation. I will start with some figures here, and the fact that for the organization, the most important business risk in 2020, this is the ranking, and as you see, for any organization, cyber incidents are ranked in a very good very good position there, even on top of natural catastrophes, the pandemic outbreaks, and any other changes and regulation. This speaks very clearly about the importance and how crucial it is for the organization to protect themselves against cyber attack. Here I wanted to talk a little bit about the cybersecurity landscape. Some figures and some facts that I wanted to share with you today. So 123 million profit in 2020. Ransomware remains the biggest cyber threat because it is in constant evolution. They are evolving constantly. 20 million devices. This was the number of ICS devices found to use the default password admin in just 45 days of analysis according to Microsoft. Then ransom as a service, a change in the model of attacks in which a group builds the ransomware and then leases to the specialist. Also another important aspect, supply chains attacks on the rise. the ICS systems are more vulnerable than ever, and the changes introduced by the pandemic, such as remote access, because we know that it was a must, the remote work during the pandemic, has made the critical infrastructure target of choice of hackers. 59% of ransomware use double extortion strategy. We know very well, and we heard multiple cases, right? Hackers are threatening to leak sensitive information if the ransom is not paid. This is a very common it's a very common procedure, let's say. And Linux systems are the new targets. More than 40% year-to-year growth of malware attacks targeting Linux systems, with more than 56 new Linux malware families added in 2020. So I think these are important aspects and important figures that I wanted to bring here and to show and to present to you. Of course, privilege management has a big impact on the cyber incidents, because they are a big part of the organization, and a privilege account, of course, has crucial information for the organization. So according to Forrester, 80% of breaches involve privilege accounts. 96% of critical vulnerabilities on Windows can be mitigated by removing local administrative rights, and 85% of cyber attacks are done through compromised endpoints. I think these are important figures that state the importance of having in place a PAM solution. Here I will go and present more figures that were added considering the last 2 years in which the pandemic affected quite a lot all the environments, right? Cybercrime is increasing and getting more expensive because remote work increased cost of average data breaches. 81% of cybersecurity professionals reported their job function changed during the pandemic, and 76% of IBM respondents said remote work increases time of detect breach. So I think these are figures important and relevant to consider. Now I wanted to walk you through a little bit through the challenges in managing privileges. Why there are so many challenges? Because the environments are now very, very complex. We have users with local admin rights. We have different and multiple applications. We have identity consolidation. We have privilege elevation. We have staff turnover. We have service account governance. We have also hybrid environments, because nowadays the infrastructure can be very, very diverse and can be very complex. Of course, we have lots of Unix and Linux local account management. What we were talking also before, the remote control, and of course, all this leads us to sometimes to a lack of visibility of what is going on inside the organization, and this will lead us to increase of a security risk, and of course, also an increase of the operational cost from the company from the company perspective. What is our view and the modern PAM security best practices? Of course, establish the trust, always verify, enforce least privileges, and I would like to go through and explain each of these concepts. So establish the trust. For the system to enforce an authoritative security policy, each must have a very securely established unique identity within the security management platform. There is no longer acceptable in today's threatscape to allow management system to use anonymous access accounts or to inject credentialed typically with vaulted or shared super accounts, as they cannot be strongly verified for security operation. So this is why it's mandatory to enforce and to establish, first of all, the trust. Then verify who. This is also a very important step, because today identities not just include people, right? We can talk about workloads, we can talk about services, we can talk about machines. Properly verifying who means leveraging enterprise directory identities for authentication and the authorization process. I think you've heard before about this, for sure. Never break the glass. It's an ultimate approach to secure the access, whether by administrators check out share privilege accounts only for emergency situation. For all other situations, you want to leverage the root of trust that establishes the true identity of the source. By doing this, you are not only establishing accountability, but you also strongly verify who is asking this access. The next part is contextualize request. It is very important to have zero standing privileges and to reduce your attack surface. This is something very, very important. Then legitimate administrator will, with individual and low privileges account, request elevated privileges just in time, and provide context for the approval. What that means, that the user can have access just for a limited period of time, and to certain files, folders, applications, and so on. Secure admin environment. When accessing privileged resources, it is critical that we don't enable the malware to access our servers, right? Or to introduce any other infection during connections to a server. To achieve all this, we need to make sure that we have access only achieved through a clean source. And applying zero trust, what we were mentioning at the beginning, means preventing direct access by isolating internal systems from a user workstation that also has access to internet, like email or some other application, which we know they're very easy to infect with malware. And then grant least privileges. Least privileges means that you give just enough privilege, just in time, and for a limited period of time. Just in time because they need to get their job done, helping to limit the lateral movements, and just-in-time privilege resulting in a temporary access is achieving through a simple self-service request process, and the lateral movement is limited by only granting access to the target resources needed to get the job done, and no more, and limited also in time, as I mentioned. And I think also what I wanted it is very, very important to stress out here, it is the fact that we need to audit everything. And how do we do that? With documented recorded of all the action performed, audit logs not only can be used for the forensic analysis, but they are used also to find the exactly issues, but also to attribute actions taken on a specific users, because all these sessions are critical, and it also the best practice to keep the video recording of the session that can be reviewed by or used, yes, in an evidence for a more critical actions. There are lots of let's say regulations in place right now. If I'm thinking about NIST, the FISMA, PCI, the DSS, if we're talking about payment cards, that specifically requires all this level of auditing. And then on top of this, we need to have an adaptive control. What this means, that privileged access control needs to be adaptive to the risk context. For example, even if a proper credential are entered by the user, if the access request comes from a potentially risky location, then a stronger verification should be required to ensure that it's not in the attacker possession, yes, of this legitimate credential. And modern machine learning algorithms are now in place and are used, so we can detect very carefully and to analyze the user's behavior and to identify all the anomalous and unusual behavior. And like this, you'll be alerted, you'll be notified. The right, of course, the right personnel will be notified about all this. Adaptive control requires not only notifying the right person, right, but also being able to automatically respond by disconnecting the session or increasing the monitoring level. We were mentioning about before about zero trust, right? What is zero trust? This is a very simple definition. I know that you've come across a lot lately with this concept, but I just wanted to remind you a little bit what zero trust means. So zero trust is a security model based on principle of maintaining strict access controls and not trusting anyone by default, even those already inside the network perimeter. Exactly what we were talking before. Never trust anyone, all the time verify the identity. How do we enforce the zero trust principle in our platform? And here I put together some ways that we are using to do this. First, the first step would be the password, the single sign-on, right? Users log in with their Active Directory account or with a single sign-on. Then multi-factor authentications, layer MFA with any of our integrations. We have multiple integrations in place right now, and we can connect with different applications from this perspective. Control which IP address can be logged in from. This is also another important step to enforce the zero trust policy. And analysis of login context versus the baseline, the IP address and the time of the day. These are what we were mentioning before about the learning algorithms that can be put in place, and we can detect any anomalous behavior into the system. Now, I just wanted to go through this and to show you how we can take you through this journey. Just few considerations at the beginning. Over the past several years, we have driven innovation through multi-stages product roadmap designed by companies, designed by us, and we helped companies to adopt PAM and to embed privileged access controls throughout their cybersecurity programs. And we've done all this remaining steady to our principles and to our commitment for a very, very, let's say, optimal end user experience. Our solutions are very easy to try, to buy, to deploy, to customize, and to configure. And as I mentioned before, this is in our perspective the journey. Of course, first step would be protecting the critical data. What this means, we are able to do this with our encrypted vault, in which all the passwords are stored. You are able here to store all the passwords, but our solution is not just a vault solution, because you are able to achieve much more than vaulting. And then because of this, you are able to have the secret management part. Then, of course, you are able to discover. To have discovery procedures in place. And this means that you are able to understand and to identify exactly what accounts do you have inside the organization. And this is an ongoing process that will allow you to regain the control over the organization. Then, as we mentioned before, also the session management, the fact that you are able to record and to audit everything that is going on inside a secret server, and of course to have a secure remote access. And then the second step would be to secure endpoints and devices. And this takes me back to what we were mentioning before, the endpoint privilege elevation, enforcing least privileges policy, which I've explained before, the fact that you simply grant access to the user for a limited period of time and without affecting their activities, their work, and their productivity. The ID bridging and the application control. The application control, because we are able to whitelist, blacklist, and graylist applications. This means that inside the system you'll have the applications that you'll be allowed to use and are part of the whitelisting. Then the blacklisting, definitely the applications that are not allowed to use. And then the gray listing are the applications that will enforce a workflow and approval process in order to have this application run into the endpoint. And then the third part would be manage the cloud access, authenticate and audit. We are talking about here different environments, EIS and SaaS application, access the all auditing, again, the session monitoring part that is also available here, and the Active Directory brokering. And then the last part, which is also very, very important as part of this journey, secure sensitive code, provision and the commission. Also manage the non-human account management and the service account management. What to expect from Delinea? In our perspective, security doesn't have to be complex. And the opposite to complex is not simple. It's seamless in our point of view. So what you have to expect from us, first of all, flexibility. Least intrusive as possible in the architecture, unmatched session launching capabilities, SaaS, yes, and on-premise deployments. We have the same solution available on cloud and on-premise, exactly the same features, but it's just the way that the company wants to deploy it. Then, as I mentioned, simplicity. Zero trust access doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be complex. Easiest to implement and to customize, zero touch and zero downtime upgrades. This is something very, very important, and I think it's an important aspect for everybody. Then visibility, full audit trail and session monitoring. Exactly what I was mentioned previously, the fact that you are able to audit everything in the system. Customizable reports and dashboards. We have more than 50 out-of-the-box reports, and then all the other information can be customized, and you can pull out from the system all the reports that you need. And then behavioral analytics, exactly what we were mentioning before, the machine learning algorithms that we are using to detect the unusual behavior. And resiliency, high availability on components, disaster recovery and break glass capabilities, and hybrid architecture support. Because we are aware of the fact that nowadays companies' environment is more and more complex, and we need to adapt and to support companies with all in all these characteristics in all their current situations. And of course, doing all this, we are scalable. Just some figures about us, Delinea at the glance. I think I will start by mentioning, I think everybody is aware about the Gartner reports, and this is something that for us it's very important to mention. The fact that we are leaders in Gartner, in Forrester, and in Kepinger Call. These are analysts that constantly positioned us as a leader on the market. Then also it's important that we have very good position on the market right now. It is increasing year by year, and we managed to consolidate our position. And for instance, last year it was the same case. We were able to add more than 1,000 new customers in our in our portfolio. Let's say. Then 45 combined new products released. 5 new combined new products, more than 150 in integrations, because we are in constant search of adapting, of evolving, in answering the needs of our customer, and this is why we are in constant move. And this is also something important that I wanted to stress out: the fact that more than 50% are top Fortune 100 customers. This speaks a lot about how we can adapt in very big environments. Also, we are addressing all type of markets, but we can be adaptable in each type of environment, from small companies, small, medium, so from SMB part, mid-market segment, but also in very big and very large companies. And 4.8 out of 5 and customer success rate, which means a lot to us and speaks a lot about how customers are happy with us, and they want to continue to use our solution. And I leave by the last this very important figure to us: the fact that last year we were the first vendor to have more than 500 reviews in Gartner peer reviews. And this is very important, because this is not something that I'm stating here because I represented the Delinea, but this is the customer voice. And all these reviews spoke very, very clearly about how our solution, it's very easy to deploy, to implement, to use, to install, and even how easy they were able to get it up and running, because without the need of spending many resources in it. Here I want to pull together a little bit some of our logos. It's a great number of logos that we have right now, but this is just a part that I wanted to share with you. As you can see, there are companies from different verticals: financial services, technology, energy, healthcare, entertainment services, also public sector and education. And I think we are happy to have a lot of success stories, and happy to have also multiple success stories also in Lithuania. If you need specific use cases or any other detailed information, we would be happy to provide them to you. Now I wanted to go and talk a little bit about the identity and access management market. This is a short definition from Gartner. So identity and access management is the security discipline that enables the right individual to access the right resource at the right times and for the right reasons. It addresses the need to ensure appropriate access to across IT systems and to meet compliance requirements. So this is, according to Gartner, a very simple and very clear definition about the identity and access management market. Why I put this? Because I wanted to explain a little bit the fact that this market is very, very big. It's a huge market with a huge addressability, and it has very good growth, annual growth rate of 13.2%, and it is according to all the forecasts, it will be on the constant raise, and by 2026 it will reach $24.76 billion. I think we are talking about a very, very big market. These are the segments, right? So part of the segments are access management, single sign-on, advanced authentication, the identity governance and administration, IoT-driven IAM, and customer identity access management. And I left in the end the part that we are addressing and we are talking about today, privilege access management market, which of course also it's I want to explain further on a little bit about the concepts. So according to Gartner, PAM, it's number one CISO priority. And why is this? I think it is no wonder, because when the attackers establish a breach, they typically use the compromised privilege accounts to perform the recognition and to learn about the normal IT routines. And then this means that they will observe the regular schedules, all the security measure in place, the traffic workflows, right? And then when they go undetected, when they are using this privilege access, they can go back anytime they want, and they have an accurate picture about the entire network and its operations. Ultimately, they can return, they can be undetected, and of course perform malicious activities without any alarm. And this is the reason why cybersecurity, it has an increased importance, because of the volume and the sophistication that nowadays all the cyber attacks has. And for the companies, having a PAM solution in place has become mission critical for the organization at its side. Because when you have a PAM solution in place, then you tighten up the overall attack surface. And if you think about the fact that most of the organization have hundreds or even thousands privilege account in place, then this attack surface can be very big. As we were talking about before, the EIM market and how big this is. Also, the PAM market, it's a very big market that it's increasing year by year. And in 2020, it was 2.47 billions. And the projection for the 2030, it will be 19.73 billion. So I think this reflects and gives you a very good idea of how important and how crucial this market is, and how it's evolving and growing year by year. Here I would like to present a little bit how protecting the privileged accounts has a greatest impact of any cybersecurity strategy. By 2023, 75% of security failures were result from inadequate management of identities, access and privileges, and up to 50% in 2020. By 2024, 65% of organizations that use these privileges task automation features will save 40% of staff costs for its operations, for EIS of PAS, and will experience 70% fewer breaches than those that don't. And by 2024, 50% of the organization will have implemented just-in-time privilege access model, which eliminates standing privileges, experiencing 80% fewer privilege breaches than those that don't. I think also these are along to the other features that I was trying to figures that I was trying to present today. These are also very important and very relevant, and speaks by itself about how this market is important and how crucial this is for the companies to implement a PAM solution. Now in here, I wanted to explain a little bit about the challenge, right? As we were talking before, most of the organization have hundreds or even thousands of privilege accounts, and this makes the attack surface even higher. So this would be the attack surface, right? The matrix of all different type of privilege accounts that exist across all the different IT domains are often referred as the privilege account attack surface. The more accounts and the more domains you have, the largest this surface will get, and the greater the risk will be. Yes. So the best way to reduce this risk will be also to reduce the attack surface. We found that the most neglected, let's say, parts of the attack surface are the service accounts, the non-human, then the accounts in cloud infrastructure, and the accounts in DevOps environment. Service accounts fly under the radar of the IT governance, and can have access to critical application or the data. Even Gartner calls them as an area where much risk is concentrated. Then, if we talk about the cloud IT, includes everything from the ES platform like Amazon Web Services to business applications. Just a quick example that comes into my mind right now with Salesforce.com, right? And all of them have resources and data that require privileged access. But because of their access from everywhere and all this convenience, their credentials are escaping from this governance. And from a privileged account perspective, DevOps environments are let's say, the Wild West, right? With credentialing configuration files, source codes, even credentialing still in spreadsheets. And again, all these credentials are avoiding the governance policies. So I think this is something very important to keep in mind and to analyze what is your own situation at this moment. These are the PAM modern challenges, right? What we were talking before. Access control for everyone, every time and everywhere. The fact that we have now a very complex environment, not just the IT. We have non-humans identities. We have the developers. We have business users that are accessing systems. Then we have the remote workers category that is stronger and stronger in the past years. And all this environment that we have, right? We have all the data on one side, different environments, SaaS, IaaS, and multiple scenarios. And of course, we have on top of this all the workstations, the laptops, the servers, and the IoT devices. So we have to control and to be aware of all this complex environment. Because I think what is very, very important to stress here, the conventional PAM model used to be focused on the IT users, right? Like account systems, in which resides the heart of the organization. Of course, the IT are centric privileged accounts, like the domain accounts, which are always the targets for the cyber attacks. But I think in the past years, we need to consider a much more complex environment, and how do we call and what do we call a privilege accounts, because it is not just the IT user. If you just consider the fact that the CFO of the company has access to critical financial data, why we don't consider them as also a privileged user? Or the members of the engineering team, right, has access to the product codes. This means exposure and will also cause damage in the market position, right, if anything occurs on this. And lots of jobs that the people are doing that has impact and have access to very critical information. So this is why the whole concept has extended, and it's not just referring to the typical IT. Here are just some important questions that would be for you and for everybody will be, let's say, important to keep in mind and to ask about the current situation inside the organization. So, who is using which privilege credential? What are what is our privilege surface attack, and where could be users be bypassing our governance. I think this is very, very important. And we need to consider the business cost of the compliance and the audit failure. And it comes up to my mind. I know there are multiple examples, even in the past month and so on, but this is a very good example with a famous company, right? British Airways, that faced a record fine by 183 million for security breach that compromised personal details from more than 5,100 people. So I think this is very important and speaks about his health, about how big this cost can be when the audits is failed. And then it's also important to understand what compliance and certificates are you working on, how prepared are you to meet PAM and access requirements, can we afford to fail these audits, and what is the cost. These are very important questions for you to understand the whole business environment and to understand the operational cost of a poor access control and what will involve. Here I put together some figures that are very important, and I think that in a day-to-day activity you don't even imagine, right? More than 50. These are the number of passwords that employees have across all verticals. 191, the number of services that average person has password for. 13, the average number of times the same password is typically reused by employees. And 37% of the time that an employee forgets their password and they are not able to access something to do their job. So I think these are powerful figures that speaks about itself, about how critical are these and how time consuming and what are the costs behind of all this. And then password memorization is a hidden weight that reduces business output. Daily time spent providing identity. Work days in a calendar year, 230 days. So this is a lot. Annual time spent providing identities, 1,150 minutes, 20 hours. Total affected workflows, 1,000 staff, and combined annual time spent in providing identities, 15,000 minutes, 1,910 hours, 239 days, one working year. So I think this is very, very explicit and speaks a lot about the implications and all the costs behind of all this, right? And the of operational costs, because we have the IT teams that are doing manual credential rotation, lifecycle management of the accounts. They are repairing the damage caused by access privilege accounts from the people that left the organization. Help desk, because they are dealing with lots of people that are forgetting the credential, with the application access and resolving the failed provisioning, the security operations that takes time to try to track the privilege access, to identify the misuse, and also to have and to provide all this forensic analysis for the privilege access, and the compliance, because time taken collecting this data on the privilege access, it's getting a huge amount of time, and getting creative with all the information and results, and time spent on making educated guesses. So I think these are very, very important aspects to consider. And if we put all this information together, then we have the savings, the income, and then the costs, and you will see the money that you think that you spend in not implementing a PAM project, the money saved from not doing a PAM project versus the potential and the actual cost. Of course, cost of accidental damages, the data breaches of reputational damage, regulatory fines, as we saw also previously, cost of lost intellectual property, and business downtime. And the actual cost of audit and compliance of all these manual procedure, loss of partnership and also business, and loss of talent and stuff, because people are moving to other organizations who are considering all this environment. And in the last part, I wanted just to offer you the vision and the fact that our goal and our vision at Delinea is a PAM that works for you, not you working for PAM. And Secret Server for the enterprises is absolutely automated, hands-off, privileged access management solution. This is again a stage from a current Delinea customer. And how we are doing this? Automate infrastructure management and upgrades. We have SaaS offering, auto scaling, and infrastructure and total care of backend. Yes, why we would do it better? Because through zero downtime upgrades, 99.9% SLA. Then we have the automate discovery and onboarding. We discover what we were talking before, the fact that we are able to discover the accounts and automate their onboarding, and AD synchronization to automate the JML processes for the users. Why we are doing it better? Because custom discovery will adapt to your environment, and like this you will be able to regain control about on the organization and on the current situation that you are having. Then automated credential resynchronization. We have this heartbeat function, which identify the credentials that are out of synchronization. And this will pull out an alerting mechanism that you can trigger either by email and by Slack or from different other type of alerts. Automate threats detection and remediation. We were talking about it previously, the machine learning algorithm that builds baseline for normal user behavior, applies security workflows when users deviate too much. And one of these we mentioned before, yes, the session recording, the MFA, and the request access workflow. Automate the audited process, because we have auto-scheduled report. More than 50% out of the box are able to be processed into our solution, but then you are able to customize and to create your own report as needed. And automate everything. Event pipelines is one of the powerful features which helps to automate any repetitive admin task. And this will reduce a lot of operational overhead. We saw previously what this means, how many hours the IT team, the help desk teams are involved in all these activities and trying to get rid of all this manual workload. And I think this is something very, very important. And I will end my presentation here, leaving you with this quote for the National Cybersecurity Center from UK. The only good security is the usable security. Usability is so central to building security that works in the real world, not just on paper, that no savvy organization can afford to ignore it. So I'll leave you with this quote, and thank you very much for your attention. And we open to questions, if any. Questions or comments?
Okay, Camelia, thank you very much for the informative and I believe useful information regarding the current cybersecurity challenges. And yeah, we have a question from the audience. I will read it loud for you, okay?
Yeah, sure.
And the question is, if administrator connects to PAM and then to server from personal computer with internet and email, can it be called zero trust? Does PAM ensure secure source in that case?
So what we need to make sure that everything it is done through secret server, and then if any of these activities are done through secret server, then of course we can ensure all this to enforce all these zero trust policies, because we have multiple solutions. On one side is the vaulting solution that will help us to secure passwords and so on, and on the other side we have the endpoints control solution, which is a privileged manager that will allow us to protect directly the endpoints. So we can find multiple options of reinforcing and to make sure that zero policy trust are in place inside the organization. As we mentioned, consider all this complex environment, that the users are not using only the applications that the company wants them, right? What will create the shadow IT effect, right? That everybody knows that they have other multiple applications that they are accessing to.
Okay, thank you very much. And I have one additional question from my side.
Yep.
What would you recommend for companies who not have like a wide third parties connections, but working with various critical business information systems, like cloud solutions, and those systems users are not IT admins, for example, but regular company workers, as those from finance, procurement, marketing, HR, and other departments? Do they should find the PAM solution useful and relevant in this case?
Yes, definitely. So I think PAM solution is relevant now for any organization. Doesn't matter if it's a small, big, or medium company, and it doesn't matter if the user is an IT. It's a person that is doing marketing, sales, or some other important activity inside the company. And we can reinforce this by putting in place policies and workflows. And this means that let's say a person for human resources can access just the folder relevant to their job and have rights on different files and on certain files. So definitely we can do this workflow and the role-based access control policies that are that will allow user to access according to their role, according to their needs, as we were mentioning, to have access in time for a certain period of time. So definitely these are things that can be enforced and can be leveraged inside an organization. And with what we were presenting today, I think we encourage all the organization to take a, let's say, to think about their current environment and to see how and to see how they can find the best way to approach this challenge right nowadays.
Okay, thank you for an answer. And Camelia, what would you recommend to organization who is struggling with decision to implement a PAM solution and putting it in non-priority list in terms of company cybersecurity?
Yeah, so what I would recommend, because what we normally do here is to explain them and to create the business case. And then the most important thing, I think, for the companies to test the solution. Because once they will test it, they will see the real value and they will understand how they can be protected, what policy they can put in place. And I think this is crucial, because I saw a lot of differences when our prospects actually started to understand and tested the solution. Then it was the initial point when they think that right now PAM is not a priority, the budget is not there, because we can find ways, and we are very, very flexible from this aspect, from our perspective, I think.
Okay, thank you for the answer, and again for the presentation. It was really useful, I believe, and till next time.
Thank you very much, and a pleasure to be here. Have a good rest of the day, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.